Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full-time
MMA.
But now that Anthony Smith has knocked out Shogun and called out Alexander Gustafsson for UFC 227, we're finding out about a minor injury that's going to keep Gustafsson out of the fight. And it's like, what? Like, after all of this, Anthony Smith, what he was able to do, called out Gustafsson. Now Gustafsson has a minor injury. Like, so it really comes off first like Gustafsson is like ducking his taco, like he doesn't want to fight, you know, too high of a risk maybe, or whatever reason. But that's actually not the case. Alexander Gustafsson's manager has came out and she has cleared up some of the injury reports. You know, people that are saying that he's ducking Anthony Smith, but these are the first reports. It says Alexander Gustafsson is out of UFC 227 with a minor injury. The injury occurred last week. Since that time, we have been working closely with the UFC doctors, our doctors in Sweden, and the experts at the UFC Performance Institute. We have been advised that Alex has a minor injury and he will not be permitted to compete at UFC 227. Had Alex been fit to fight, we were prepared to face Roundtree or anyone else the UFC had asked us, including Daniel Cormier at heavyweight. Alex will be fighting again very soon. He will give his side of the story shortly. We don't care who the opponent is, but whomever we face, it should be for a meaningful result of the light heavyweight UFC title. So after seeing that, I immediately, you know, came to the conclusion like, no, what is this minor injury? How come we didn't hear about this before this weekend? You know, I was coming into this fight thinking maybe if Anthony Smith wins, he can slide into this fight. And he did too, clearly, as he called out Gustafsson for UFC 227. So whenever you come out with this injury right after a call out, it's like, what? Of course you're injured. You know what I mean? This would have been a huge opportunity for Anthony Smith. But it's not all the way out of the picture. He can still get this opportunity, and I'm going to give you guys one better. I believe Anthony Smith, he's not fighting out of Texas, but he's from Texas. And check this out. UFC 228 is going to be going down in Texas. Oh snaps, full-time family, we just figured out Blue's Clues, I believe. Yo, I don't think Alexander Gustafsson is ducking Anthony Smith here, and like I said at the beginning, he could be pulling a little more of a Brian Ortega. You know, he sees that the UFC's kind of trying to get him a short notice opponent, but he also sees that he probably could be fighting for the light heavyweight title sometime soon. You know, I mean, he's one fight away. Alexander Gustafsson, he already could have been fighting for that light heavyweight title before Volkan Ozdemir. It was out of Ozdemir and Gustafsson, but Cormier did, you know, a little poll on Twitter and the fans voted for Ozdemir, so Gustafsson didn't get his title shot. So he's been waiting for a title shot or a #1 contender fight in the meantime, in between time. And hell, with DC going up to heavyweight, Gustafsson could be fighting for an interim title before too long if DC doesn't come back to defend that thing. So with that being said, UFC 227, I mean, it would be great to see Gustafsson versus Anthony Smith there. But now that he has this minor injury, and DC actually just came out and called Alexander Gustafsson out on this. We're going to do that on a separate video, though. DC's got some fiery words for Gustafsson pulling out of these fights. And not, you know, not these fights, but not taking the fight with Roundtree, not taking the fight with Anthony Smith. And DC is kind of looking at Gustafsson like, what's up, man? Why aren't you taking these fights? You're trying to wait for a fight with me, and you got these opportunities, and you're not taking them. So this is really a weird situation playing out, because it kind of seems like Daniel Cormier, I'm definitely not going to say Daniel Cormier is ducking Alexander Gustafsson, but Daniel Cormier is not interested in a fight with Gustafsson. He was talking about if Shogun won, he was going to fight Shogun. It's like, what the fuck about Gustafsson? You know, and to be fair, they didn't do great business. DC's a guy looking for a big payday. Probably not too interested in fighting Alexander Gustafsson at this time in his career. He's, you know, it's like, sure, I know Alexander Gustafsson wants a rematch. He's the top contender. But I'm trying to make some money, and that's not going to happen with Gustafsson. So if Gustafsson's, you know, the only fight I can't take, sure, I'll take it. But I'd rather have Gustafsson fighting someone else, you know what I'm saying, while I look for these big paydays before he retires. I don't think DC is super interested in fighting Gustafsson, and he actually talked about that, which we'll cover later on in that video. But with that being said, that's coming up next. Right here, we've got to continue talking about Gustafsson versus Anthony Smith, because this is a fight that I think makes a lot of sense. Damn, it would have made more sense for UFC 227 for Anthony Smith, because I'm not sure if he's still going to get this opportunity now. I mean, if Gustafsson is out with a minor injury, now Anthony Smith might not be the guy that gets the call to fight Gustafsson. Now, lucky for Anthony Smith, he just beat Shogun, who's the number 3 ranked light heavyweight, so he's going to move into the top 5, so he's got a great case. And on top of that, as I said not too long ago, he's from Texas, guys. Guess where UFC 228 is from, or is going to be taking place? Texas. Guess what UFC 228 needs? A title fight. Boom! I just dropped a bomb on you, full-time family. Gustafsson, this is a good move by him, because the UFC needs a title fight. I'm not sure if his team took this into consideration, but this minor injury from Gustafsson, and you know, it's a minor injury. It's not like he's got a broken rib. He's not going to be out long. This is actually what his manager had to say. She said, and they had to clear this up because a lot of people were coming out and accusing Gustafsson of ducking these guys, you know, Roundtree and Anthony Smith. And Khalil Roundtree is a guy that offered to step up and fight at UFC 227 on short notice. But he's another guy that I believe Alexander Gustafsson's team has turned down, and it's probably because of this minor injury. But like I said, this injury news was new to me, so we haven't heard about Gustafsson's injury before Anthony Smith won. So it just kind of looked bad, but now when you hear about this minor injury, it makes a lot more sense. And also, it could be a good move by Gustafsson, because the UFC needs a title fight for UFC 228. On top of that, Anthony Smith, I believe, is from, I'm not sure the exact city in Texas, but if you go to UFC.com, as I did when I was looking up, like, you know, some of the information for these fights today, he's fighting out of Texas. Like, his camp's not in Texas, but he's from Texas. So that would be such a fucking huge, you know, opportunity for UFC 228 in my mind, because he's from Texas. He just made a claim to the title fight. He could have been fighting Gustafsson at 227, but he's not going to be because of this minor injury. But now it looks like, I'm telling you right now, I'm making this prediction. I would not be surprised if Anthony Smith and Alexander Gustafsson fought at UFC 228 for an interim title. I don't know if it's going to be the undisputed title. I don't know if it's going to be the interim title. But Daniel Cormier is the light heavyweight champion, and I don't think he's coming back to defend this belt anytime soon, especially now that Shogun lost. So now it looks like we might have that second title fight the UFC has been looking for UFC 228. We've already got Nico Montano versus Valentina Shevchenko, but check this out. The UFC's been looking for another title fight. They've been looking for either Cyborg versus Nunes. Nunes isn't ready. They were looking for even stripping Colby Covington and giving Darren Till a title shot with Tyron Woodley just because they needed a title fight, as much as that didn't make sense either. It's like, what? Colby just fought 2 months ago. I know everyone doesn't like him, but how the hell are you going to strip him 2 months after fighting RDA for the title? And then Darren Till getting the title shot, like, out of nowhere? Come on, man. Just because we need a title fight? Well, it looks like now we might have one. And it might only be an interim title fight, but hey, it is what it is, man. This is definitely a great fight, especially with the performances Anthony Smith is coming off of. But yeah, with that being said, we're about to break down this potential fight, and also Daniel Cormier. You know, he had some words for Alexander Gustafsson for not staying on this card, so we're going to cover that as well in the next video. But before we do that, this is what Alexander Gustafsson's manager had to say about everyone kind of coming out and thinking Gustafsson is ducking it, and saying, you know, that this injury is coming out of nowhere. They said, doctors pulled Alex from the card last Friday, days before Anthony was able to compete. Before that, we were trying to stay on the card. Assuming we could get cleared, we were prepared to face anyone. We assumed it would be Roundtree, as he was ready to fight. And we were told that Jan would fight at another time. We were also offered to fight Daniel Cormier at heavyweight if he was healthy. So Alex was prepared to face anyone, ranked or unranked. But the doctor said he was unfit to compete. It was determined last Friday he would not be on the card, days before the Smith contest. So they're kind of clearing this up, because it's like, look, he's not just pulling out of this fight because Anthony Smith knocked out Shogun. He was deemed injured last Friday. That's why he's not fighting Gokhan Saki, or not Gokhan. That's why he's not fighting Khalil Roundtree, who just knocked out Gokhan Saki. But Khalil Roundtree's a guy who also had some momentum that wanted this fight, so that's why he's not fighting Roundtree. Jan Blachowicz, that's a guy we hadn't really heard of being offered to Gustafsson, but it's another light heavyweight that was probably ready to take this fight at 227 as the UFC looks for replacements. But so that's why he couldn't fight Jan Blachowicz, and that's also why he couldn't fight Anthony Smith. It wasn't because he saw Anthony Smith knock out a Shogun and said, oh shit, guys, I'm not fighting him. Alexander Gustafsson is definitely one of the best light heavyweights in the world, aside from John Jones and Daniel Cormier, and Rumble Johnson, but Rumble Johnson's no longer with the UFC. So Alexander Gustafsson's not a guy you look at like he would be scared of a fighter, especially Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith, he's been doing some scary things in the octagon to Rashad Evans and definitely most recently Shogun. He's a scary fighter for sure. He could definitely win this fight via KO. But Alexander Gustafsson is not a guy that you look at like, you know, some 40-year-old veteran past their prime type deal. You know what I'm saying? It's not a guy you look at like he's close to retiring. Alexander Gustafsson's actually been waiting for a title shot for a while now. And that word waiting is actually operative here because Alexander Gustafsson has not been too active as he's been waiting for this light heavyweight title picture to kind of clear up. But when you're the #1 contender and you're kind of getting skipped for title fights, you're probably not too motivated to fight because it's like, I'm risking my #1 contender spot here, and if I win, I'm probably not getting a title fight. DC's fighting a heavyweight. Ozdemir got more fucking votes than me. I mean, what am I going to do? Just keep fighting guys just for fun? I don't think Gustafsson's a guy that really needs the money, or he might be in there more often, you know? So with that being said, he's a guy that looks like he's ready to claim that light heavyweight throne finally. But in the meantime, in between time, we got to see how everything plays out at light heavyweight. And you guys heard my prediction. I think Alexander Gustafsson might be getting to fight for the gold sooner rather than later, as his team said he's not going to be out for a long time. And actually, when he comes back and he's healthy, he'll be willing to fight any of these guys. And it's only a minor injury. So, I mean, it's not like they're giving some crazy fucking excuse as to why Gustafsson can't fight Anthony Smith ever. They're saying we have a minor injury. When we're healed up, we'll be ready to fight anybody. But when we want to fight, we would like it to be having title implications because we feel like we've earned a title shot. So whether that's an interim title fight or whether that's just a title fight, Gustafsson's team is looking for that title shot. And like I said, I believe that could happen at UFC 228. That is somewhere where the UFC needs a title fight. And on top of that, my motherfucking dog, Anthony Lionheart Smith, I believe, was born in Texas. You can't fucking make this up. That's a huge opportunity for him. It's going to be a tough fight, though. Holy shit, if he could become the champion in front of his home. Oh my God, that would be crazy. But that's a lot easier said than done because Gustafsson's a motherfucking monster. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments about Alexander Gustafsson officially being ruled out of UFC 227 with a minor injury, right on the heels of all this news coming right on the heels of Anthony Smith's brutal knockout at UFC Hamburg. Oh yeah, real quick, full-time family, P.S. we got, I believe, 4 days left on this offer from Yank My Dandy Doodle. You know what it is if you've been listening to the channel for the last 3 days because this is only a 7-day offer. Yank My Dandy Doodle said, I will match all donations made to the full-time MMA startup fund in the next week up to $1,000. Holy shit, that's almost as crazy as the potential of Anthony Smith winning the UFC's interim light heavyweight title sometime soon, going from zero to hero in front of our very eyes. That would be crazy too, but no, huge opportunity for the channel. So I've got to show it to you guys because, hey man, our whole goal for the next 75 days was only $2,500 as we try to move to this new studio and get this new equipment and just everything coming up in these next couple of months. So this, and I know it would be crazy, probably not going to happen, but he's matching up to $1,000. So if we even hit half of that, we'd almost be at our goal. That would be absolutely insane. So with that being said, man, it is what it is. Back to the grind. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments.
Da 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 da! It's the motherfucking DOG.